This video is only one part of an in-depth review, so check out the rest at thegoodride.com. Thanks for watching. Welcome to The Good Ride. James Beastie here, and this is the Burton Wave Tracer. Rode this with Burton Kendos, Union Atlas. Got this in some good late spring conditions and had some camera malfunctions, but just kept at it, kept riding it, and really got to know this in the conditions that I had. To give you a short summary, this takes the camber profile from the Burton Barracuda that used to be around, that we loved in powder, and kind of tweaks the shape and makes it something special. It's got rocker between the feet, a mellow camber on the tail, and then just rocker all the way up through the nose. So it makes it a very forgiving, very loose, very playful, very turny, very slashy, buttery, interesting ride that's very unique to the family tree line. There's nothing else like this board in the line. The only other camber profile out here even remotely similar to this Wave Tracer is the Moss Jellyfish, but they're super different rides. And to talk about sizing, this 55 felt good sometimes and a little too small in others. I definitely like to go up to the next size and see how that works with my weight. With my size 9 boots, felt fine though, so there you have it there. When it comes to shape, it's tapered and directional, not super tapered, but a good bit of kind of just free ride taper. And it's got that side cut that makes it feel less tapered than it is, and that's kind of cool. It doesn't feel as washy, but it still feels way more washy than the other two tapered directional boards here, mainly because of the directional flying V. You really need to put all your weight onto that back camber. You need to rock it back and get on that camber to kind of turn, and you're almost back foot steering, which is really interesting. I felt like my front foot was doing very little work when I rode this. And this camber, like I'm saying, is so like washy. It does not one foot well off a chair. It kind of has that auto spinny feel like Flying V does, only more so because the nose is up, but when you lean back a little bit, it stabilizes a touch. What this does though is makes this an amazing board for, let's say, even a beginner with a thick green ham sandwich of cash and they want to blow their wad and they know they're committed to this, but they want a forgiving board that's very easy to skid turns. Wave Tracer can do that. It's not going to shit the bed on you though if you're an advanced to expert rider and you want to have like a lot of fun just turning and playing around, but you just don't want any consequence associated with it, like most family tree boards with a directional camber. This could work. So when it comes to flex, it is pretty, like, overall it's got a bend to it, but in the nose it's pretty stiff, medium stiff, and in the tail it's medium stiff, but then there's this kind of like bend in the middle, and overall it's like medium stiff with this rocker in the middle. And all this early rise, the nose and tail already being so far off the snow, when you lean back you really can get leverage and really get an easy butter going. Coming off the showstopper to this, I buttered right onto my ass, and I even dialed it back. It's just a really easy board to butter. And when it comes to pop, very easily accessible pop. You can really load between your feet or lean back and load off the tail, and it does a really good job. Maybe not the best board for an ollie because it's just kind of rockered there, but it's doable. Now, when it comes to speed, this camber profile just doesn't work well for pointing it. This is a mellow board. You don't want to bomb with this at all. It's just not what it's made for. And if you do, it's just going to clown shoot like crazy. And I just never felt comfortable at speed with this. Conversely, the base glide is good. It did a pretty good job keeping its speed. Lately, Burton bases can be hit or miss. Overall, they're still exceptionally fast. They're up there with the fastest of fast, but sometimes they can feel a bit chalky lately. I don't know if they're going for like an eco base or they tweaked the formula a little bit, but sometimes it needs the right wax, maybe a base grind, and then it's back to just being that Burton glider. But you might have to spend a little attention there with the base glide. Now, when it comes to uneven terrain, you really have to slow down here, and it will buck and bounce you around. This 55 just was all over the place. With the same boards here, the Double Dog and the Showstopper, I was able to hold my edge through some bumpy, messy spring snow. With this one, it just bucked me right out of it. I just could not keep my edge set in a turn, and I really had to dial back my riding. But it wasn't sending like all that crazy, like micro bumpy chatter up into my joints, so that's okay. Not bad for an all-day resort ride, especially if you're keeping it mellow all day. Now, when it comes to edge hold, the grip just isn't there. It's a little behind the other family tree boards, mainly because of that flying V, and it was a little sketchy in some hard patches that I experienced. I would definitely rather be on the other boards, and those boards aren't the best grippers either. They're just better than this one. When it comes to turn initiation, it's really quick. This is the kind of board you want if you have to just make quick turns. Once you get the side cut engaged, the way it works with that rocker, it just kind of hurries you up through the turn, but the more you lean back into that tail, the more fun the turning experience becomes. And I felt like it's just a really back foot steerer, and the more you engage that back foot and that little bit of camber, the more the turning experience becomes fun. But it does still kind of hurry you up through the turn in comparison to the directional camber out there, and it's definitely doable, but it's not amazing on a carve. It really doesn't carve that hard. It's just more of a fun, playful, slashy, almost like has a mountain freestyle feel to it in some ways with the flex and the way this board plays around in comparison to most of the drivey, powerful directional camber family tree boards. When it comes to powder, man, we had a lot of good days with the Burton Barracuda. Our whole crew just loved that board in powder. It had that pop off the tail like I described in other categories, but had all that directional float. It has good setback on board, but it doesn't quite feel like it's the Barracuda reincarnate like the Showstopper is to the Malolo. It just feels a little more of its own new style of board, and I think it's going to float really well in powder. I don't know, I got this late spring, but I don't think it's going to be up there with that Barracuda. I think it's going to be kind of more like a good free ride board. Switch is pretty doable with this, more so than the other boards. I was kind of surprised as to how well it worked switch. It's definitely not perfect. You got a lot of differences either direction with the camber profile and the shape and the taper and all that, but it worked much better than I thought it would, and I think it's all about like that balanced free ride geometry side cut, kind of helping things through there. Overall, this was a fun board. I don't know if I'd want to take her home and introduce her to mom. The Showstopper would be the one I'd want to do that with. That one appealed to me and just felt like my board. I just felt instantly in love with this. But I think this is a great board, especially for people who just want mellow and forgiving and want playful and slashy and poppy. Then this might work for you. All our reviews are a best effort, objective opinion from an average rider's perspective. There's no brand oversight, and we're free to say whatever we want. We send back everything unless it's a favorite, then we ask to keep those or straight up buy them. Now, if you need advice, fill out the eHarmony profile in the Contact Us section of the site. It's the only way I can help you properly. If you want to support us, and if what we reviewed appeals to you, it helps if you buy through our links. So, thanks for watching.